So a little background information, I was 14 or 15 around the time, and it was the summer of my freshman year. So within the last few weeks of my 8th grade year, one of the more popular boys asked me out, and we're gonna call him Carson. I wasn't like super popular at the school, but I was like a medium maybe. But I was raised in a super strict household, where the only phone that I pretty much had was one that was able to call 911 and my parents. And I especially was not allowed to be talking to boys. So Carson had the great idea of giving me his old phone, and throughout the summer I would text him on there. Well, I started realizing him getting really toxic. Anytime that he would see my Snapchat location change, he would be like, "Where are you going? Why didn't you tell me you were going here?" So I started distancing myself a little bit from him. Also because our relationship was just moving way too fast. Within the first month of us dating, he was talking about wanting to marry me. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how my ex-boyfriend accused me of cheating on him on an all-girls trip. So like I said, I started distancing myself from him because he became too attached and was just way too toxic. Well, I was also in a lot of clubs in school, and a few of them would require me to go on trips. Well, the one that I went on was an all-girls trip, and before I left, I texted Carson letting him know that I wouldn't have my phone all week. Well, on the last night of my trip, there was a girls and boys dance. There was like a group of boys from a different school that we were meeting up with. And I tried staying back at the cabin, but they wouldn't let me. So we started doing dances that required partners. So I was pretty much forced to dance with one of the boys. Well, when I came back home, I got 100 texts from Carson calling me a bunch of nasty names, and you can probably guess them. And somebody got a picture of me dancing with one of the boys. And Carson sent it to me and said, "We're done." So after that, I just ignored him. And then literally that night at 1 a.m., he was texting me saying, "I miss you. Please come back to me." Like for part 3 about how my ex-boyfriend accused me of cheating on him on an all-girls trip. So like I said, I received over 100 messages from him. He got a picture of me dancing with one of the boys and said, "We're done." And then at 1 in the morning, he's like, "I miss you so much. Please don't leave me. Like, I've been doing so bad while you were gone." So of course I didn't accept his apology, and I just blocked him on all my social media. And the next day I wake up to messages on my Instagram, my Snapchat, my Facebook. Like, who even uses that? Unless you're talking to family. Well, then Carson decides to tell everybody at my school about how I'm a lying, cheating scumbag. And now, 3 years later, no good guy from my school wants to date me. So now whenever I'm talking to a guy, I have to make sure that they're not affiliated with Carson in any way. But low-key, I had a really good glow-up, so all the hot boys want to talk to me now. And Carson's pretty much still a scumbag. Story time of why it's never good to be in a best friend group of 3. So a little background information. I was in 4th grade and I was 9 years old, about to turn 10. Now I know you're thinking, that's really young. Well sis, I was just smart enough to see the red flags early on, unlike half of you who probably didn't see them. Anyway, so I had 2 friends. We're going to call the one Becky and the one Mia. Now let me tell you a little bit about Becky. Becky was kind of a bitch. Now, anytime that she saw Mia and I having our own conversation, she would pretty much bully us. And she would have 2 of her other friends tag along and do it also, Brooklyn and Riley. So the one day we're walking to PE and Mia and I are having a conversation. And in our gym class, you had to line up in groups of 3. So it would go Mia, Becky, and then me. Well, because I wanted to finish my conversation with Mia, I decided to sit in Becky's spot. So we're sitting down and then Becky marches over to where we're sitting and just stands there and stares at us. Then she walks away and goes and sits with her other friends. And at the end of gym class, she comes back over to us. Like for part 2. Part 2 about why it's never good to be in a best friend group of 3. So like I said, Brittany hated it whenever Mia and I would have our own conversation. And I sat in Becky's spot in gym class, and then she got mad at us because I wanted to finish my conversation with Mia. So she goes over with her other friends that literally bully Mia and I. So at the end of gym class, she walks up to both of us with Brooklyn, and she literally is just standing there. And then Brooklyn goes, "Do you need me to do it for you?" Me and I look at each other like, what the fuck is going on? And then Brittany's like, "No, I just wanted to tell you guys that I don't want to be friends with you anymore." She was like, "You guys are just so fake. Like, you never include me in anything." Which was completely not true, but we were like, whatever. So then the next day at school, Brittany comes up to Mia and I, and she's like, "Hey guys." Like, this bitch was bipolar as fuck. And we're like, we thought you didn't want to be friends with us anymore. And she was like, no, I just meant I didn't want to be best. Okay, story time about my dark, dirty secret. Just a warning again, this story does have to do with drugs. I apologize, this is the second video in a row. But if you guys do not want to finish watching this, maybe go check out one of my other videos on my Storytime playlist. So a little background information, I was 16 and in 10th grade, and whenever I was about 5 years old, my dad was murdered leaving the club one night. My mom and him had a really good night out, and my dad saw this guy trying to take advantage of some girl, so he tried to step in, and this guy had stabbed him. Again, this is why we hate men. Anyways. Well, after that, my mom and I struggled for a while trying to make ends meet, meaning we really never had a stable place to live. We were sleeping in cars some nights. We would ask a family member to stay the night, but we would tell them that it was because we were traveling. We didn't want to let them know what was actually going on, which is understandable because, you know, families can be very nosy at times and make up scenarios and just crap like that. Well, all that kind of changed once I was in 8th grade. My mom was working as a waitress and she had met this really nice guy. Well, one thing led to another, they started dating, and he loved my mom so much that he decided to propose. Now, whenever it came to my mom dating guys, I was always very protective over her because I had seen so many men try to take advantage of her before. I've seen men actually take advantage of her before, and after everything that my mom had been through, I just didn't want her getting hurt again. I swear I can never catch a break. There's literally a dog barking down the street. There's a train going. My washer's going. Anyways, back to the story. So he proposed to my mom, they got married, they moved in together, and we were one big happy family, right? Wrong. Well, a few months after moving in together, I started noticing red flags. Not my mother, me. I mean, honestly though, I really couldn't blame my mom for how she felt. Like, at this point in her life, she had already gone through so much, and I feel like she just wanted to turn a blind eye to everything so that way she could act like it was all okay. We were living in this fantasy that she created. The first really big red flag that I saw was about a month after my mom's wedding. This guy's baby mama decides to send a letter to the house telling my mom how much of a piece of shit she was and saying, why would you want to date a deadbeat who doesn't even want to see his kids, da-da-da-da-da. And my mom did not do well with conflict. So what did she do? She talked her now husband, her great husband, into driving an hour across town to go and see his kids at his baby mama's house. But again, I can't blame my mom. She was a really good person, you know, and like I said, she didn't like conflict. The funny thing is we moved very far away after they got married, so all of my friends lived on the part of town that he was going to. And because of that, I would ask him to take me to my friend's house down there on the weekends when he would go to see the kids. So it kind of worked out in my favor, not so much in his. After they sorted through that issue, he stopped coming home some nights. He would have to work late, even though like the whole 6 months that they were dating, he never had to work late or anything like that. So I don't know where this is coming from. Joe, we're gonna call him Joe. Joe's a dick. Well, fast forward, I'm always hearing them argue. And of course, whenever he left, I was the one comforting my mother, telling her that it was okay. You know, just a whole fake shit that I had to put on so that way I wouldn't hurt her feelings. Because she just didn't want to put the glasses on and be like, oh, he's a piece of shit. Of course. Well, then the one day he decided to do something that was the straw to break the camel's back. So this weekend was like any other weekend. He would drop me off at my friend's house while he went to go see his baby mama. And I had told my best friend about everything that was going on, right? So she was like, oh, like, where do they live? Should we go and see what they're doing? And I was like, you know what? We should do that. So we're walking around downtown in a not very nice neighborhood, and we get to the park that is near his baby mama's house. And as we're about to start walking to her apartment building, we hear some voices at the park. What do you know? It's him, his children, and his baby mama. So of course we hide behind some cars and we watch them. Pretty creepy if you ask me, but you know what? I was trying to help my mother. While I was watching, I had sent him a text and said, hey, like, I'll just walk over. We want to go to the gas station and get some food anyways. He sent me a message back, said, yeah, that's fine, you know, just be here by this time. I was like, cool, good. Well, I guess he must have told her, so they all got up, they started walking back to the apartment, and like when all the kids walk into the apartment, he like kind of, you know, tells her to wait a minute, you know, and then he makes out with her. He makes out with her while I was watching. I mean, granted, he didn't know that I was watching, but I saw it. So this gave me the perfect ammo that I needed. I went home that night and I told my mother everything. Did it go as planned? Probably not, because she started screaming at me for trying to do the right thing. Like, okay, mom, whatever you want to believe, sis. Just kidding, I had another trick up my sleeve. And when I told her, it was weird. She went to her bedroom and started praying to God. She was like, God, please, I just want to be a better woman for him. You know, like, I want him to love me. And I'm like, girl, pull it together. What are you doing? It's embarrassing. So because I was really pissed off at this point and I had a little inkling that he may have been abusing my mother, I decided to stalk him. Yes, yes, yes. So usually in the morning before I would go to school, he would ride me into school and everything like that, you know. He would make his coffee. But the thing about his coffee is that my mom tried making it for him before and he screamed at her. He was like, no, this is my time. I will get my time to make my coffee. I wish you around. So my mom would leave him alone to do his thing in the morning, and that was that. Well, the one morning I heard him get up and I heard a lot of like rustling around downstairs in the kitchen. So I like creeped down the stairs and like hid behind like this half wall that we had going down the stairs, and I saw him like tearing our kitchen apart looking for something. And then I heard him stomp over to the stairs, so I like ran back up the fucking stairs. I was like, oh, can't get caught. Well, when I got up the stairs, I like hurried up, went in my room, and I was listening, you know, through my door, and I heard him go and wake my mom up dead out of her sleep and was like, where the fuck did you put my coffee mix? Something like that, you know? And then she was like, oh, I had to move it because like there was water leaking underneath there. He was like, well, don't fucking touch my shit, da 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 da. You know, that's the normal reaction that you would have whenever somebody keeps your stuff from being ruined. Right? Wrong. Anyway, so pretty much at this point, I sneak back down to that half wall and I'm just kind of watching him, and I see him pull out this container of coffee mix. It looked like it was like a little tin container, but he instead pulled out a white baggie, a baggie with white powder. What's that doing in there, bud? We know what it is. Anyways, and he starts snorting that shit like there's no tomorrow. Like rubbing it on his teeth and shit, like full on crackhead shit. Anyways, well, now that I knew what he did in the morning, I could catch him so easily, get a picture of him doing it or something like that, right? But now I also knew where he hid his stash. Because what was the picture gonna do if my mom didn't even believe me about him cheating on her? So I would say maybe 2 weeks later, right? In the morning, he does his usual routine that I now found out about. And then he would go upstairs and get ready for work. And I want to say around this time, it was probably during January or February. So it was really cold outside. So I yelled upstairs and said, hey Joe, I'm gonna go and warm up the car. He's like, that's great, sweetie. I'll see you downstairs in a minute. Well, on my way to the car, his baggie of white stuff must have just magically fallen into my hands and into the glove box in his car. Oh no. And then maybe another one under the seat. Oh my God, who did that? Me. Anyways, so yeah, that pretty much happened. He drove me to school, period. And on Fridays, I knew that he would stop at the golf club. So that's when I decided to call the cops on him. I pretty much said like, hey, like I walked past this car. I gave them license plate information. And I was like, yeah, no, like I see somebody, it looks like shooting up in the car or snorting something in the car. Yeah. They were like, okay, you know, like we'll go check it out. And I did call from a payphone, okay? Like I was not about to risk my mother finding out about me doing this, because then she would be like, you're just a liar, no, 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 no. Like some elaborate bullshit that she would have came up with, okay? To convince herself that her boyfriend is a god. So pretty much the cops call my mom's house, you know, she finds out about it, and my mother hates drugs. She really does, because half of her family was on drugs. So after that, she was crying. She was upset for a while, you know, but eventually she took it for what it was. Turns out though, he also had 3 warrants in another state. So that was cool, you know. Look at me helping out the community. My mom and I did decide to move in with my grandpa, which I was super happy about, because once I was around maybe 10, we had moved further away from them and I didn't get to see them as much, and I never saw my cousins as much either.
Hi there, Amelia speaking from Canada. Thanks for clicking on this video. It's my first time sharing my story with the world, and I think you're going to be quite shocked at the end. Before the pandemic had hit, I was just your average office receptionist. I was really good at my job for an 18-year-old, and I had a lot of fun talking to new people every day. I'm often very enthusiastic, friendly, and talkative with anyone I meet. Not to mention, since I'm planning to major in communications, I needed to make connections anyways. In my eyes, I thought I was going to work there for the summer as an internship, while I save enough for college. But once the pandemic hit, I lost my job. I had to find a way to make ends meet. My parents also lost their jobs, and they were restaurant owners themselves. We were really struggling. I was ranting to one of my friends one day when she had a brilliant idea. "Why not make an OnlyFans account?" she suggested with a wink. "You have the body for it anyways." For those who don't know, OnlyFans is a subscription site that allows creators to monetize their influence. People would pay, and in exchange you can get exclusive content like pictures or videos for those who have paid. So unless you subscribe and pay for a certain amount, you cannot view their content. In the beginning, I was a bit wary. I mean, why would you want to sign up to see me in a bra, panties, or lingerie? Apparently, thousands of people. I was shell-shocked when I didn't do any promotions for it, yet I was pulling in so many subscribers onto my services. I guess a lot of people were at home and had nothing to do besides trying to connect with someone however they can. Since a lot of people are also stuck indoors with no one to talk to, they were eager enough to connect with anyone through whatever means possible. So I offered services where if you paid me $1,000 a month, I would allow you to text or call me up to 5 hours for a whole month. Before I knew it, I was drawing in close to almost $10,000 in the first month. Now, keep in mind, all of my photos and videos had my face cropped out of view. Since I was good with communicating and managing money, I was able to save up a decent amount during the pandemic. Not only did I have money, I was also able to boost my courage and self-love because of the attention I was getting for my picture and video. Many people, mostly men, also were willing to go out of their way to ask for my P.O. box to send me gifts because they had fallen in love with me. I ended up loving the attention I was getting. While most people got me intimate wares for my photo shoot, others sent me jewelry, gift cards, and even cash. I never told my parents about my side job. I didn't think they would understand. Not to mention, it was really embarrassing as well. There were a few times my dad almost caught me because I was taking pictures of myself naked on the couch, but that's not important. It went on for almost a year, and I was close to making 6 figures a year just from my content I put out. Now that high school is back in session, I decided to meet my OnlyFans running while I was attending school. It earned almost triple a salary at my workplace anyways. At my school, we were given the option if you wanted to come into class or continue attending classes online. In my head, I wanted to go back for one reason only, because I could dress more in a different setting than my own home. It was the perfect plan. So I opted to go back to school despite my parents' protests. I dressed in a red plaid skirt and white blouse that really made my chest pop out. To other students, it looked like I was going to seduce someone, but that was not the case. I mean, boys just don't do it for me anymore. I wanted a man that worked and knew how to take care of me. Now that I knew my own worth, I wasn't going to let anyone devalue my own worth. Once I was in school, I realized a lot of students selected to take classes online. In total, there was less than 40 students, and most of them were freshman students too. It was the flawless plan, so long as I didn't get caught. So during lunch, I excused myself while everyone was eating in the cafeteria. I glanced around the halls and turned into an empty classroom before closing the door quietly behind me. This happened to be my math teacher's room, but we'll get into that later. I put out my tripod camera and started to take pictures of myself. There were some shots of me bent over the teacher's desk. Some shots were of me sitting in my usual desk while leaning over so you can see my breasts. Then I decided to do one of my naughtiest one yet. It consisted of my blouse undone, showing off my black lace bra, and then bending over a desk that exposed my panties. The best part? It showed the entire classroom and my math teacher's Mr. Jepson's plaque. It gave the perfect setup so people knew that it wasn't fake or green screened. I knew I had to do it quickly before lunch period ended, though I had about half an hour anyway. But it was the exact moment Mr. Jepson came in. Mr. Jepson was one of the teachers everyone had a crush on, including myself. No one could really blame them either. He was well built and in his mid-20s only, but there was something that everyone feared about him. His cruel, angry nature. In sophomore year, he made someone cry because they were late to his class by 10 minutes. Ever since then, no one was ever late again to any of his classes. Both of us froze and stared at one another, unblinking. His eyes traveled from my black 2-inch heels up to my skirt. It wavers for a moment on the mole on my hips and then travels up to where my skirt was undone. I swallowed as I tensely pushed myself back up from his desk and drew in a sharp breath when his eyes landed on my black lace bra. His eyes widened like something hit him when it fell onto my thin black collar resting around my neck. I tucked my shirt together and stammered out nervously as he closed the door behind him, and then locked it. My heart started to race. "Mr. Jepson, Such a naughty bad girl," Mr. Jepson mumbled, gripping onto my hair with his fist when he got close enough. My eyes widened at the flare in his eyes, yet for some reason it thrilled me too. "Using my classroom as a setup studio for your OnlyFans? Are you serious?" My stomach turned and I thought for a moment I was dreaming. "What?" "You think I wouldn't know who you are? Naughty Student 69, wasn't it?" I gasped as he gripped my jawline so I couldn't look away. "How did you know?" "That black thin collar on your neck and your heart-shaped mole on your hips told me everything," he told me, a wicked grin on his face as he tisked. "You can get into serious trouble for this, you know. It's illegal to do it because our school is a private property." I could care less right now on the second half of what he said. All I can focus on was the fact that my teacher saw not only my OnlyFans, but he knew who I was, which meant only one thing. "You're subscribed to me?" "Do you have a problem with the way I spend my money?" He growled, annoyed. "You weren't complaining when I sent you designer lingerie and even a diamond ring you're wearing right now. Isn't that right?" I didn't think... "You didn't think anyone would know? Well, you were mistaken." He laughed and I watched him pull away from me. My eyes stayed trained on him as he sat at his teacher's chair and smirked. "Not to mention, you were going to publicly post a picture of my classroom with my name fully exposed for the world to see? Such a naughty, bad girl." "I'm sorry," I whimpered quietly, not knowing what else to do at that moment. Realization hits me that I could potentially be expelled. Tears ran down my cheeks as I stared at him. "Please don't tell anyone." "Sit across my knees," he demanded. "What?" "If you don't want anyone to know," he threatened, "then you'll do as you're told." Not wanting to anger him anymore, I did as I was told and sat on him. I fought the blush as he started to slowly touch my thighs, caressing it. I don't know why, but my body felt so hot as he continued to toy with me. "Have you slept with anyone before?" I widened my eyes at his words. It was so inappropriate to ask your student, yet I found myself being honest. I shook my head. "No." "Did you know," he began slowly, "that if you post pictures of us doing it, you'll excite more people and earn more revenue?" "Really?" I gasped when he lifted my skirt, exposing me to the tripod camera that was just in front of us. "Yes, because men would fantasize themselves in my position," he pointed out. "How much are you making now?" "About 90,000 last year," I reported. "I wanted to make 100,000 by the end of the year, if possible." "And you want more? I can show you the ropes. I'm a math teacher and I know analytics better than anyone else. You're planning to major in communication to grow your business, correct?" "You remembered that about me?" I pointed out, shocked. "Is it just me, or was Mr. Jepson always watching me since I was a freshman? Last time I checked." He ignored my question. "Well, okay." And so, because my teacher discovered my OnlyFans account, he became my lover/partner in running my account. We began in role-playing and taking so many naughty pictures together at his house, or even inside the school. My favorite must be when he told me to go meet him in the park in the middle of the night in nothing but a bra and panties under my trench coat. That picture and video of us doing it in public started to trend, and I made so much money that month thanks to his ideas. I hated to admit it, but he was right. I was able to make close to $150,000 this year alone. It's been 2 years since I graduated high school and was able to attend college. I paid every semester in full cash from the money I've earned. Now you may be wondering, is there a point to my story in sharing it to the world? Yes, I've seen a lot of people dehumanizing me for what I do to make ends meet. I want to destigmatize sex work on the internet. When I told my parents what I did, they ended up disowning me. They were ashamed of me, even though I was happy with what I was doing. This video was animated to show people out there to be proud of what they do. So long as you're happy and it's not hurting anyone, then why not? Normalize dating sex workers and what they do. Now, if you're under 18, I'm not saying to go make an OnlyFans. I'm saying you should be proud of yourself and not be ashamed in being true to yourself. Mr. Jepson and I have been in a relationship since I got out of high school. He actually doesn't mind my side hustling job, so long as I didn't show my face. Not to mention, he was also the one that's in every single one of my content usually. He's rather possessive, over the top, and jealous, but I love him for shaping who I am today. Thanks for watching this video. Here's a question I have for anyone sticking around. If you had to choose between your dream job, even if your parents are against it, would you? Hi there, everyone. Jenny here from New York City. How are you today? So I'm a high school dropout. Cue the judgment. Well, let me explain why. Before the comments come pouring in. My mother had always been fragile and very sick. She was born with a rare disease, and because of this, she often had to be at the hospital. Our insurance only covers so much because her workplace cheapened out. Once she could no longer even get out of bed, I had no choice but to drop out in order to work and make money for her treatments. It didn't help that Dad, who my mom is legally married to, refuses to pick up the call and help her. I know he works at a 6-figure job somewhere in California, but he likes to pretend we don't exist. Yet whenever my mom sent the divorce papers to him, he would refuse to sign it. Like, why? So without any options, I dropped out soon after I turned 18 and took on odd jobs around the city. I did anything and everything. I would work as a cleaner in hotels, cutting grass in people's lawns in Brooklyn and Queens. Every day, I would go on Craigslist or apply to any job I can get my hands on. But it wasn't enough. I was paid usually minimum wage, while my mom's hospital treatments went in the thousands. There was no way I could work enough to ever pay it off. And the rent for the apartment we live in as well. One day I was looking online when a stranger approached me. He introduced himself as Kenny. He told me to call on his workplace cell phone, and I did. He offered me a job where I can earn potentially thousands a night. I was shell-shocked and a bit skeptical in the beginning. After all, I'm only 18. I immediately said I won't be selling drugs, even though it is tempting because if I go to jail, my mom would die in the hospital without any insurance to help. He chuckled and said he looked at my profile picture. He then offered me to be a stripper full-time at his club that catered to the rich. When I say rich, I mean filthy rich. They are CEOs, millionaires, and billionaires. At first, I was skeptical. That was until I went to check out the workplace that I realized it was true. But I'm not 21, I said, shaking my head. That's okay, we'll just keep you off the books. If you're okay with signing a form that states we waive all liabilities and such, he said with a smile on his face. I didn't even think twice and signed it. I never told anyone about my job. I guess I was ashamed of the money and what I was doing in order to get it. Not only was I a stripper, I also offered services to men to sleep with them in exchange for more money. It gave me the money I needed to help my mom with her treatment, and I had enough where I could spoil myself a little bit with food and other living expenses since my dad wasn't going to pay. Some may say I shouldn't have done that, but I think I would do anything for my mom. Would you? But anyways, my older brother who was adopted also helped out. He lived with my dad in San Francisco. He secretly transferred me money here and there, but he didn't know that I dropped out of school. He's very protective of me since I'm the baby sister in the family. If he actually found out that I dropped out of school, he would lose his marbles and quit his job to come back home and take care of Mom. I didn't want him to do that. I mean, compared to me, he has a stable job and is a hard worker. So when he asked what I was doing for Christmas vacation, I had to make up an excuse over the phone. So, he said, his voice sounding unsure, you're working during Christmas Day? Yep, I replied cheerfully on the other line. Where do you work again? He asked, almost skeptical. Oh, a small diner across town. My mom actually got discharged from the hospital recently, so we're going to spend Christmas together. I lied smoothly. That part was true, though. Mom was finally well enough thanks to the treatment to come back home. I was actually really excited, but I knew my brother was going to video call us, so I made sure to remind him when I work so he doesn't call me while I was actually at the strip club working. Just letting you know again, I work from 10 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning, but I'm free the whole day before then. Okay, well, I'm at the airport. I'll be at your house in about 7 hours. My eyes almost bulged out. What? Merry Christmas, he laughed on the other line. I was able to book a flight, so I'll be landing on Christmas at around 11 in the morning, New York time. I'll spend the morning with you and then drive to your work since you don't have a car. I'm gonna rent one. Oh, you don't have to do that. I tried to play it off, but it was already too late. Are you kidding me? I haven't seen my mom or baby sister in years, he huffed. Anyways, I'm boarding now. I'll see you soon. Then, the line was dead. In my head, I'm freaking out. See, my brother is the smartest man in the world. It's how he's able to get a six-figure job soon after graduating as well. He has a very keen eye on things, and he would realize something is up if he offered to drive me to work at night and then realized he's dropping me off in front of a strip club. So for the next 7 hours, up to me showing up to the airport to getting up, I devised a plan. I was going to lie to him. As it turns out, there is a diner that is 2 blocks next door from where I worked. Soon after he landed in New York, he saw me and his whole face lit up with excitement. He ran to me, picking me up and spinning me around. I was laughing as he spun me around, completely lost in the moment. See, there's a secret that no one knows, not even my best friend. I have a huge crush on my stepbrother Kyle. From the first moment we met when my dad adopted him from Greece, I fell in love with him. He was gorgeous and beautiful. When I found out his personality and characteristic was just as sweet, I knew nothing else would compare to him. And this is true. But I knew nothing would ever happen with us. So I never said anything. Not to mention, I'm too busy trying to take care of my mom to even think about dating anyways. Back at our house, Mom went to give him a hug. "Merry Christmas," my mom said. I hated how weak and fragile she looked and sounded as she went into her bag and gave us both our gifts. For me, it was a beautiful diamond necklace. Kyle's Christmas gift was my mom's wedding ring, which got us both to gasp. "Kyle," my mom started with a smile on her face, "when you find the girl, I want you to give her this ring. It's been passed down for over 3 generations, and since you're my son, I want you to give it to someone you want to spend forever with. Can you promise me that?" Kyle's eyes watered as he nodded. "Yes, of course, Mrs. Thorpe." "Mom," she corrected. "When will I ever hear you say that?" At that, we all laugh. We had one of the best Christmas parties with just the 2 people that meant the world to me. It consisted of catching up with what we're doing and how life is. By the time 9:30 rolled around, I cleared my throat. "So, I have to get to work, Kyle. Why don't you stay and keep Mom company? I don't mind going to work by myself," I offered. Kyle shook his head. "No, I insist on taking you. It's across town and it's late as well." I pressed my lips thinly together. I knew if I tried to change his mind, it'd only look more suspicious of both of them. Instead, I gave them both a facade smile and nodded. "Sure, thank you." So Kyle asked soon after getting into his rented car, "Where do you work again?" "Like I said, it's the diner," I reminded him. "Right." When we got in front of the diner, I got off his car and slammed it shut. I had no choice but to awkwardly walk into the diner before he was satisfied and drove off. Soon after, I darted 2 blocks to the strip club where I worked. "Hey, Jen," my manager and boss Kenny said. "You're late." "Yeah, sorry." I apologized as I got changed, which meant changing into my bra and thong. My brother is in town and he doesn't know I'm working in this kind of field. He laughed. "Yeah, he'll probably come for my throat if he realizes that I hired you." With a wink, I made my way to the front stage. Since it was Christmas, there was just barely anyone watching. My eyes scanned the crowd, and that's when my eyes caught onto a pair of beautiful and familiar gray eyes. My brother. We froze, staring at one another. I had no choice but to stand because Kenny and 3 other men were watching. But I felt so exposed. Like I was naked as my brother watched me. Men threw money at me on stage, hollering and whistling while my eyes only were looking at Kyle. After 30 minutes of dancing, I was ready to run out the door when Kenny pulled me aside. "Someone paid triple for a private room with you." My stomach churned because I knew who it was without even asking. Usually I'd be really excited to be paid that much. I usually love to save the money for a rainy day, but the thought of taking my brother's money didn't sit right. I smiled and nodded at Kenny. "Sure, let me meet him in a private room." When I walked in, Kyle was watching me, like a hawk, with his face full of unkept anger. I avoided eye contact, trying to cover my body as I stiffly walked over to where he was seated. Then, while on his lap, I danced for a few minutes before he broke the silence. "Why did you lie?" My eyes watered. "Please don't make me talk about this." "Do it or I'll spank you." I gasped at his threat as he tightened his hold on me. "What?" "I paid Kenny to also sleep with you. He accepted it and said I didn't need to ask you either. What kind of boss does that?" he growled out. I was stunned. "What? Kenny's never done that." "Because no one ever offered him $100,000, he barked. "What? Why would you offer that much?" "To tell you that you shouldn't be working here. Kenny doesn't even care about your safety. All he cares about is the money he can earn. You're done after this. Now tell me why you're doing this," he growled out, narrowing his eyes. "Because of Mom's sickness," I blurted out. "Her illness, it got worse. Dad wouldn't help and I didn't want to bother you, so I dropped out of school and went to do this full time." "Here's what we'll be doing," he gritted out. "I'm going to make love to you right here in this private room. I'm going to treat you rough and hard because that is the only way I know how to punish you. Do you understand me?" I nodded and he continued. "Then I will make love to you. I will put a ring on you. Tomorrow we will get married and I will take care of you and your mother. Our mother." Then he kissed me. His kiss was so possessive and jealous, like he was trying to tell me that he was in love with me for as long as I was in love with him. He actually booked 2 hours in the private room, so we did so many positions. He was so rough and angry with the way he took me, but I loved it because he was the one doing it. I was so shocked about this whole ordeal, I didn't even realize he had placed the ring on my finger either until the next morning. It's been about 6 months now. Currently, me and Kyle have a long-term relationship while I try to finish back in school. Then he plans to move me and Mom out with him in San Francisco. My mom still doesn't know about our relationship, but she was suspicious since I ended up wearing her ring. We plan to tell her together after I finish graduation. She is still very sick and fragile, but she's getting better each day with Kyle paying for her bills. He joked saying I can pay him back with my body, which I don't mind at all. Before I go, let me ask you a question. Just how far are you willing to go for your loved ones? If you were in my position, would you have done the same thing as well for your parents? Hi there, this is Danny speaking from British Columbia. How are you, beautiful flowers? Sorry, it's the way it's a form of habit for me to greet everyone like that. See, I'm a streamer with close to 10 million subscribers and garner up to 6 digits of views a day. I call my viewer flower because every single flower on this earth is beautiful, just like the people watching. So if you haven't already, let's make this garden grow by subscribing and leaving a like. Thanks, and let's get started on this video. Now, as I said before, I'm a famous streamer, like the top 50 on Twitch to give you a hint. I have a lovely boyfriend who I go over to stream because his internet speed is so much faster than mine. We've been dating for almost a year now, but lately we had started to drift after an intense fight a few months ago, which I will explain later. The night before everything went downhill, my boyfriend was acting a bit skittish. It didn't hit me till the next morning what was happening. In the morning, I realized that I was trending, but not for the right reason. I was bombarded with hundreds of messages from people around the world about if the rumors were true. I was so baffled about the rumors. Apparently, I had made a secret OnlyFans account and was selling my nudes on there. Many people started to call me out since I was also underage and to cancel me. Some of the worst tweets are still in my head to this day. Things like, I saw your nudes, you aren't even pretty, unsubscribed. Wow, talk about desperate. How much for videos of you instead? Now that I can see your pictures for free, what's the point of watching you stream now, lol? I was terrified. I immediately went to the supposed OnlyFans account I had, and I'm not lying, they looked so real. There were hundreds of pictures of me on there with my head plastered. I never took any nudes of myself, nor have I ever sent it to my boyfriend as well. I ended up contacting OnlyFans to get them removed, but the damage was already done. Although most of my fans believed me, there were still those that didn't. My reputation was tarnished and ruined. Articles will still be floating around the internet forever, along with forums. I ended up having to hire a private investigator and working with the FBI to hunt down who did it. I cried to my boyfriend who told me to take 3 months off stream to not be cyberbullied, and I did. It took almost 3 months, and when I found out who it was, I was so shocked. My boyfriend is a computer science major, not to mention he's good with Photoshop as well. He made several deepfakes of me to end my career. For those who do not know, a deepfake is a form of artificial intelligence called deep learning to make images of fake events. Yet it looks so real that many people would think it's you when it wasn't. Why? I confronted him one day when I finally found out. Why would you do that? Because it's not fair, he lashed out. While I have to go to college to get a good 6-figure job in the future, you did it while playing games. It's not fair. I was so shell-shocked by the fact that he was jealous of me. I had done nothing to fuel his jealousy. I had told him time and time again that I got lucky to actually make a living as a streamer and that the money was for us to one day move together and get married too. So you decided the next best thing is to ruin my career? I made you choose between me or streaming, he reminded me. I nodded. It was an intense fight we had a few months before, and I chose to stream because it was my hobby, passion, and job. I thought he had let it go, but clearly not. Yes, and I'll still choose streaming over anything else. He scoffed. Let's be honest, half the people watching your stream is only because of your looks. You suck at all your games anyways. I felt as if my heart broke. My boyfriend for 1 year, Samuel, showed his true colors that day. While most people go to jail for what they did, Samuel got let off with a warning. The judge said that he was only 17 and going to jail will only affect his future. It was a mistake, and that if he never does it again, that it'll be okay. I was so furious with the judicial decision, and the fact that Samuel looked so smug the day the trial ended. He didn't even look remorseful, so you can only guess what I did next. I went after the 1 weak spot he had, which was his dad. His dad, Mr. Fitch, actually loves to watch my streams, unlike Samuel. He was a gamer like I was, and found joy in watching me play and have fun. He was also my moderator for the
These broken pieces I hold in my hands don't have a chance to mend at all. Before they get thrown into chaos again, I try to pretend I'm whole enough to stand in this world so unsteady and witness the heartache of many, many, many. But how long until we all see what we're fighting for? Is there in our reach if we open our hearts some more? Love is a cure.
It took time, actually. He was very supportive and even on my side during the trial against his son. But he didn't want to become a rebound, especially to his son. We started as friends, but over time, as I made advances onto him, he ended up asking me out a few weeks later. And then 1 week passed again before I seduced him into sleeping with me. I know in the comments you'll ask if I was scared since my ex-boyfriend can just film me having sex with his dad and post it online. You see, I would. But the FBI had made it very clear now that he's 18 that if he did anything like that again, he would be jailed for 30 years and every single college that accepted him would retract back his application. Not to mention, he didn't want to disappoint his single dad that is now head over heels in love with me. Oh, you feel so good. I found myself screaming one time loudly while my ex-boyfriend's dad was making love to me. I knew he could hear me because of how thin the walls are. I knew he would be tempted to try ruining my reputation now that he didn't have me or his dad anymore, but I didn't care. You're so much better than your son. We even did it one time with his bedroom door open, and I swore Samuel saw us. He had to pass his dad's room to get to his room. One day while I was cuddling with him and playing games, he kissed me on the temple. I looked up at him and he smiled at me. You know I want you to know that I would never make you choose between streaming or being my girlfriend. You can be both, and I will support both of you because it's what makes you, you. Really? I whispered, my eyes becoming glossy. How did you know that was bothering me? Because I heard you and my son fight about this before, he confessed and held me tight. I will never do that to you, and I hope you know that. I will always put your happiness first above mine, because I love you so much and I only want what you want. I ended up crying at those words. It was the same day I fell for him and introduced him to my streamers. Everyone in the stream got along well with Mr. Fitch. All of a sudden, I was so happy with my life again. I didn't have to choose between being a lover or being a streamer. I was both, and Mr. Fitch was happy for me. Everything went smoothly until 1 month later when Samuel cleared his throat and went into his dad's room that slowly became my own gaming room now that I came here so often now. Mr. Fitch had gone to make dinner just downstairs, so I knew Samuel wasn't going to do anything too crazy. Hey. I stared up at him surprised. Hey, do you need something? Look, Danny, I'm so sorry about what I did to you, he began when I cut him off. It doesn't matter, what's done is done. He pressed his lips into a thin line and swallowed. How can I make you give me a second chance? I swore. I never laughed so hard in his face. It was the moment I was waiting for. I had the last laugh after everything he had done to hurt me. I shook my head, getting up from my chair on the way out. Nothing. Nothing. Your jealous did this to you, and you'll live with the consequences forever. After that, I felt truly free. To this day, I still live with Mr. Fitch, and we're getting married in a few weeks. It's going to be live streamed, and I hope everyone joins. Now, you may be wondering if there's a lesson in this video. Well, of course. So listen up, everyone. Let this be a very important lesson to those out there watching. Do not let anyone bring you down or your worth. My ex-boyfriend, who I thought was the world, was so jealous he allowed his selfishness to destroy what we could have had. He destroyed my reputation and allowed all these negative people to attack me. He leaked fake nudes of me that people to this day will still think it's me. And it's not okay. Love yourself and never give up what you love for that person. Be you and embrace it. I know going after his dad was petty, and I never recommend anyone to either. In the anger of the moment, I did, and it luckily worked out for us. I ended up confessing to him about my intentions with him in the beginning. Wasn't good, but I did end up falling for him. He forgave me and we ended up moving in together shortly after Samuel went off to college. But he ended up getting arrested 3 months in when he went to a house party and ended up trying to blackmail a girl there. Currently, I'm still streaming with over 10 million subscribers now. I am so happy with the support I get, and I will choose to continue what I love doing. This time, I have a very supportive soon-to-be husband by my side. Thank you again for watching. If you haven't already, please hit that red subscribe button for more content like this, and leave a like. I hope if you get anything from this video is to stay true to you. Put yourself first and never give up your hobby and calling in life for another person. It's not worth it. Till then, see ya!
Feelings flowing up and down, picking up the pieces that you left behind, hitting a new type of flow, breathing in the smoke and clearing up my mind. The thoughts of you, I never knew what the hell you got me into. I thought you knew. The thought of you is pure, such an innocent, happy coincidence. Hey, hey, but now I realize that I'm not into this, so I'm leaving you. Yeah, hey, hey, hey.